What makes a $1 to $5 million company? So I was recently asked a question. What's the differences that I find between companies who are bringing in less than $100,000 a year and those that are making $1 to $10 million in annual revenue? And the questionnaire said, do you think it was just luck or timing that they're older companies that got them there? And it's like, whoa, interesting question, because it's certainly not what you just said. So just context, this question was asked about the expert space. And so coaches, consultants, coaching, people who create courses primarily, speakers, authors, those kinds of things. And recognize these are very high profit margin businesses. So they don't have a storefront. They don't have a ton of employees that have to man that storefront. They don't have a shipping department, lots of different things that make it so that this particular space can oftentimes be, you can have a $1 million company and be 10 to 20 times more profitable than a typical $1 million company. Okay. In other words, you can have a $1 million company and bring home $950,000. Okay. All right. So after some consideration, here's the answer. I gave it an initial answer, but I've thought about it more and I'm going to give you a more complete answer. Okay. So first off, it has nothing at all to do with luck or timing. A couple of them were lucky. And yes, a couple of them started at just the right place, but that happens with any companies because there are all kinds of companies that are still doing less than $100,000 a year who started at the same time they were in the same industry, had the same amount of luck, all those kinds of things. I don't believe it has anything at all to do with luck or timing. Here are some of the commonalities that I see for those companies. Now, for the sake of communication, what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer to those less than $100,000 as small companies and those with $1 to $5, $10 million as big companies, though I realize in the rest of the world, a big company is not a $10 million company, okay? But for the purpose of this answer, I'm just going to refer to them as small and big companies, okay? All right. So commonalities between them. Number one, big companies have figured out real customer needs and how to talk about them and solve them. This, you may say, well, of course, but this is way less obvious than you think it is. So what ends up happening is many of these small companies never really tap into what is really, really driving their customers. And so what ends up happening is the lead magnets for these big companies, the things that they give away in exchange for their email address is something that people really, really want, which is the reason why sometimes some of you see me look at people's landing pages and it's like the first question that goes through my brain is this something people really, really want? And if it's not, I'm not going to let you get away with it. I'm going to call you on it because I believe you're wasting your time if you're trying to offer a lead magnet, a product, even if it's a low dollar product that people really, really don't want. They're really, really not going to buy it. And so because they have really tapped into what people really want, everything just becomes much more successful. When they put up a lead magnet page, they might get 40, 60, 80% opt-in rate. Whereas somebody who has a lead magnet that doesn't really nail a customer problem or doesn't communicate it, the lead magnet itself might, but their landing page might not. And so consequently, everyone just doesn't sign up in droves. And so you got a 2% sign up rate for that. And then not only just the lead magnet, but their emails and their communications on social media, everything they're doing is focusing on real urgent needs that human beings have. And consequently, the product that they sell focuses on solving those needs. So everything they're doing to prepare to sell that product is focusing on pointing out those needs and giving small solutions. And then the product that they sell does a wonderful job of solving. And by the way, I just realized one other difference between the bigger companies and the smaller companies is that their products are excellent. In other words, They may not be the fanciest things out there. They may not have a gorgeous homepage. They may not have a gorgeous product delivery portal, or they may not have the most beautiful slides or video with, cinematic quality and B-roll and everything else like that. But their product really does help people solve their needs. And so the people who buy them love the products that they're doing. And so they want to come back and buy more from them, and they tell their friends about them, and all kinds of amazing things happen. So I apologize. I left that out of the slides. That big companies tend to have products that really, truly deliver on what they're promising that they do. Now, contrast all of this with the small companies who are almost always, and I look at a lot of small companies' work, and I find they're almost always struggling to figure that out, those real customer needs and how to talk about them in a way that really resonates with their target market. The reason why this is first is because I personally believe of all the skills you can get in the online marketing space, in this expert space, it's this one right here. Figure out how to figure out what people's problems are. And that one's really easy. I mean, you can go to ChatGPT and find out what people's problems are. Finding out what their problems are is 5% of the problem. The real problem you got to solve is how you talk about it to other people so that they feel like you understand and feel like you can help them and that you're giving them real solutions to their real problems. Figure that skill out and you'll be far bigger, far faster than almost anything else that I can show you. Okay? All right, that's the first commonality. This figuring out real problems and really solving them. Number two, big companies in this space, this expert space, charge a premium price. So when you're selling a course, you can sell it anywhere from $9 to $20,000. Well, what ends up happening is the companies that I have seen stay small are not confident enough to charge more than like $47, $97, $197. The big companies tend to charge, $1,000 for their main product, $1,000, $3,000. Sometimes if they're in a consumer market that doesn't really have a way to make money off of whatever it is that they're selling, sometimes they might be at a $500, but they're not $197. They're certainly not $97 or $47. And so a lot of this is just pure confidence and gutsiness to say, yeah, that's what I'm going to charge. But if you really, truly tapped into the consumer needs and really, really solve those needs, you can charge that higher amount, and you should. Because that brings in higher profit margins, which allows you to do advertising, which allows you to build bigger businesses, which allows you to have JVs. It allows you to do so many things you couldn't do otherwise. So there's two pieces here. The first piece is choosing to charge more. And the second one is choosing profitable markets where people are willing to pay to have their problems solved. So I'll give you a great example. There is a huge, huge market out there for people who are trying to get disability declared on them. In other words, so they never have to work again. And please don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that there's anything unethical or wrong or inappropriate with doing that. If someone is truly disabled, I want them to be able to get disability payments. Here's the problem. People who are struggling and they can't work oftentimes don't have money to pay for someone to help them get on disability. And so even though there's a huge, huge market, there are literally millions of people at any given moment who are seeking to get on disability who can't. They've applied and it's been rejected and they can't get there. And so that problem is real. People are truly struggling with it. But the problem is, if they don't have money to pay for it, this probably isn't a good market for you to be in. Because if you want to become a big company, you probably need to be competing in a marketplace where people are willing to pay a lot of money to have their problems solved. That's important because that price that you're able to charge rolls through every single thing in your company, in your strategy, in your marketing, in the employees, in the way you can launch, in the way you can advertise, everything. Okay? All right. Now, here's the other key thing. When I said they chose markets that people are willing to pay, sometimes those markets they chose were not the main love of the company founder. In other words, just a second, I got to make this call go away. Please go away. Okay, it's not going away, and for some reason, it doesn't give me the ability to just make that go away. Okay, so ignore the phone ring in the background. Okay, so some people are told, choose something you're passionate about. Steve Jobs gave a very famous talk saying, choose a passion project and everything will work from there on. Well, I disagree. I believe that a passion project is great if it's a product, if it's a passion project where either someone pays you to do it. So if you really like to study the mating habits of the red underwater snail, then and can get a government grant to go do that, by all means go do that. But if you're going to launch a entrepreneurial business, you may have to do something that's not your passion if you want to make money with it. And I'm sorry, I got to be somewhat blunt with you. If the thing you're passionate about is not something where people are willing to pay a lot of money to get it solved, it's great. You can do it. Just don't plan on ever being a $1 to $10 million company with it. You're making choices that are going to affect your bottom line, your top line, everything that happens in your business. And if money's not important to you, then fine, by all means, go do it. But if money is important to you because you got a mortgage, you got kids that need to go to college, you got all kinds of things, then you may need to occasionally say, and just so you know, I have 10 passion projects that are sitting right over there that I really, really want to do, that I've chosen so far not to do it because I'm working to build a company that's highly profitable, not one that brings in for full-time work, maybe $15,000, $20,000 a year. So make that choice. And also in this process, what ends up happening, remember, this whole set of slides is all about they're able to charge higher prices. And one of the ways that they're able to do that is because they've tapped into the real needs people have and are willing to pay higher prices for your solution versus somebody else. Because there will always, always, always be somebody who's willing to sell a similar product to you for yours for a fraction of what you're selling it for. But because you do a better job of tapping into human beings' needs, people are willing to pay more for your product than those other guys' products. Udemy will always be there. If Udemy goes away, there'll be somebody else who's selling a course on sale every week. You can go to Udemy and find a course on almost any subject for $10. But I don't see people flocking there the same way when somebody who has a very appealing offer for $1,000 to $2,000 to provide same solutions and people are actively buying them. And one other thing about these companies that are selling things for high prices, many of them, though not all, are selling products that offer some kind of monetary benefit on the other end, not just soft claims. So not just, I'm going to make your life better, I'm going to make you happier, I'm going to make your relationship stronger, I'm going to help you meditate better or whatever. Ultimately, they are tying to it, many of them, not all, some kind of monetary benefit. That monetary benefit can be, hey, I'm going to teach you how to make money online, or I'm going to teach you how to get higher in the search engines, or I'm going to teach you how to do this or that or something like that. That when they look at it, they say, oh yeah, that clearly puts dollars on my bottom line. Or it can be, I'm going to teach you how to do yoga and I'm going to teach you how to teach people how to do yoga. So you can oftentimes put a monetary benefit onto a soft claim by teaching people how to teach other people to do the soft claim thing. Okay? And one of the things I find remarkable is how many of these smaller companies that I work with where people really love it. They're in a passion project. They're committed. They're working hard. They're doing all kinds of things that they should be doing, but they're targeting non-profitable markets. And as a result, they may have a successful launch, Jeff Walker style launch, and sell 20 products, but they sold them for $197 each. So they brought in $2,000. They can't pay their rent that month. So I'm not saying you have to choose these. I'm just saying there are consequences for every choice you make. You get one of the main consequences is if you're in a low dollar market, one of the consequences is you're probably not going to be all that profitable and all that big. All right. Number 3, many of the founders or the companies themselves have chosen to have a personality. Okay. So they're willing to be market facing. So to go in front of the world and say, here I am, I'm Don Crowther, I'm teaching you these things. You may disagree with what I'm saying. I understand that. I'm willing to take the consequences of your disagreement with me. Feel free. For the things that you've seen here, I probably offended several people already. Feel free to tell me about it. I'm more than happy to carry on a conversation with you. And so the founders or the companies themselves tend to be willing to be out there. They're not camera shy. They're willing to say stuff that maybe some people will disagree with. They're willing to be controversial. They're willing to be on video, to go live, etc., and to purposefully choose to become internet famous to some degree. So I was talking to somebody a little while ago, and because of some online stalking that had happened at some time in the past to a member of their family, they were terrified to be seen, to have their name connected with their company, to have anything. And I said, that's fine. Just realize there are consequences of what you're doing, especially in the market that they were in. It was one of those markets where, man, I don't know how you're ever going to succeed in this market unless you come out with a personality, because this market was personality driven. Now, recognize, as I say this, what I just said was not causal. I cannot say that to be successful, you must be a personality. To be successful, you must be an extrovert, because I'm not. I'm an introvert. I'm a flaming introvert. I just act like an extrovert on TV because that's what helps sell stuff. Look at what I just showed you in the last several slides. But I do find there's lots of correlation with the people who are willing to get out there and actively promote. They tend to have bigger companies as a result. Even though it's hard, I understand. Okay. Next, many of these people that are running these larger companies are single focused. They're not jumping on every butterfly that flutters by with, hey, maybe you should go do this thing, or maybe you should do this kind of project, or hey, here's another get rich scheme you should go try. And because we all get emails every day that are offering these different ways to make money. And what ends up happening is the people who jump from one to another, to another, to another, buying every deal that comes along, not only have small savings account and large credit card bills, but they also never really get there with any of them because they never work long enough on anything to make it really work. And so the people who build these big companies, they tend to be long-term focused. They put their foot on the ground. They say, this is what we're doing. We're going to go all in and we're going to learn from our failures. We're going to put stuff out there and fail, because we know that eventually one of those is going to work. And we're going to learn from those failures rather than give up when they occur. Now, recognize what I just said when I show you number 5, which is they pivot rapidly. Now, as I said that sounds controversial. It sounds the opposite of what I just said, where I said they tend to be long-term focused. But what ends up happening is they pivot rapidly, not in the core business. So they don't say, oh, I'm selling how to make money selling real estate, and that didn't work, so now I'm going to sell something about how to buy and sell jewelry. It's like, no, we're not saying jump markets, because you've already become an expert in the needs and the requirements of someone in that marketplace. You don't jump markets. What you do is you jump how you're marketing it. what you're selling, those kinds of things. Because if something's not working, fix it. Don't just let it run and say, well, this is going to fail. No, sit down and say, what can I do right now to fix this? The card is open for another 3 days. What can I do to fix things in those next 3 days? You're willing to pivot. You're willing to try different things to make things work. And if the last launch didn't work that way, okay, now change something and come back with a different launch for the next time. Okay. Number 6, they tend to be willing to invest. Now, I know this is hard if you've got $22,000 in credit card bills with a credit limit of $23,000 and you have $1,000 left in your savings account. And so you're not even sure how you're going to pay the mortgage next month. Okay. But the people who tend to get to these higher levels are willing to invest in things like advertising, in things like building out good marketing assets. So they may go and get themselves on video because that's going to take 2 days to get a great sales video. Well, they're going to do it rather than doing something else because they realize that's an investment in the marketing of their product. They're willing to invest in some of the tools that are necessary to be able to get the information and the capabilities to do things that you couldn't get otherwise. They're willing to invest in people, to have some other people helping them do some of these things. They're willing to invest in coaching so they've got somebody who's got expertise, who's looking at it from an outside point of view and saying, that's got to change and this could be improved. And have you thought about that? Okay. Next, I have 2 number 6s. Number 6, they study the competition and the marketplace. Now, what's the difference between the competition and the marketplace? So the competition is the people who have products or services that are like yours. They're your direct competition. The marketplace is, hey, people don't just buy what you sell. They buy this and this and this and this and this and what you sell. And so this is the marketplace, all these other things. And so you need to be looking at, in the marketplace, what's working and what's not working. And in your competitive space, what's working and what's not working. And be willing to take the things that are working and do them in your own business. So what you're after is what's working, not what's popular. So different things come along and everyone jumps on them and is like, okay, we're all going to go do this. And sometimes these big companies jump on that immediately. Many times they sit back and they watch and they say, is this getting any results for people? Bottom line results. So maybe not, oh, I just jumped in this new social thing and now I have 100,000 followers. Well, if those followers never buy anything from you, it's no good to have 100,000 followers on that particular tool. And so you focus on what's working, not what's popular, and they're willing to change what they're doing to what's working. So I've always done it this way. Well, this other way is working better. Well, maybe I should change to that. One other one. Some, though not all of them, work very fast. So I have a number of businesses that I work with that are in the $1 to $5, $10 million space who've literally sold the exact same thing for 20 years. Great. Never budged from those things. I also have a number of companies I work with in that size that literally have made big bank by jumping on opportunities while they're hot before everyone else does. For example, as AI came out this year, they jumped on AI. They did products on AI and brought in $250,000 with a product about AI. In the very early age, when everyone is interested in it and no one knows how to do it, they go invest on figuring it out and selling people solutions to that right out of the gate. So I'm not necessarily saying you should do one or the other. Just recognize that some have done a really good job of doing that. Final one. These big companies get help and guidance to help them. They realize that their brain is not enough. Their brain is based on filters, assumptions, everything. And their brain can literally guide them exactly down the wrong path. And they need outside help to help them get help and guidance. So that may look like coaching. It may look like they're part of masterminds. They may be part of paid programs. They may be part of paid or unpaid communities. So they're hanging out with a group of people who are actively figuring out what's working and what's not, and who can give them advice and counsel on these things. And eventually what I find is almost every one of these companies, the founders or some key people within the company have developed a small group of people that they really trust, who really trust them, and work in this small group to help each other mutually beneficially to build their business. And almost every one of them has a mentor or a coach who can provide expertise and experience. And this is, they're paying somebody to do this. By the way, if you're interested in that, let me know. So there I've given you what the number on the slide says 8. I've actually given you 9 because remember there were 2 6s. I've given you 9 separate things that I have noticed have the bigger companies have in common that many of the small companies don't yet. I'm doing this because maybe some of these bigger companies may see something in there that's a hole. And certainly some of these smaller companies will see, oh, I could fix this and it would help in my business. So my question for you is, what of those 9 things I just showed you could use some improvement in your business? How can you start doing the things, making the decisions, and taking the actions that'll turn you rapidly? And by the way, one other thing I got to tell you about this. Most of the people who are in that $1 to $10 million space got there fairly rapidly. Most of them did not take 20 years to get there. What happened was they struggled for 2 years or so, and then all of a sudden, boom, now they're a $500,000 company. And then they tend to grow, and then they'll jump again, and all of a sudden they're a $3 million company. So oftentimes recognize you're in the struggle period. If you continue to pivot and struggle correctly, what ends up happening is all of a sudden, bam, you'll be at a significantly higher level. And now you've got a whole new set of problems, you've got a whole new set of opportunities, and you work through that for a while, and then bam, it happens again. So I'll cover that more in another one. What improvements could you use in your business? How can I help in this process? And what other changes could you do to start getting other people to help you in this also? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.